it is that time. Good morning, Judson. And good morning, Zoomers. Hello, Zoomers. So glad that you're here on this Memorial Day weekend. I'm Emily. I'm not Micah. I'm a community minister. Micah this weekend is doing something really spectacular and special. Micah is preaching at the installation and ordination of former community minister Matthew Dean. So some of you might know Matthew, so that's really exciting that they can do that. So you're stuck with me this Sunday, but it will be sparkly and colorful, and there's going to be a lot that happens this service, so I'm really excited to share with you. And so to get us kind of just situated in this space, to kind of ease into maybe our coffee jitters, why don't you just take a breath with me? If you want to close your eyes, you can. And just take a nice inhale. Let it go. Just keep on breathing and just feeling yourself in your chair here. You can feel your feet on the ground. You made it. And all the subway trips and walking, you made it. And if you want to keep your eyes closed for this, you can, or if you want to open them, if that is more comfortable for you. I'm just going to take a minute to acknowledge this land that our feet are on. We're gathered on this land, the ancestral land of the Munsee Lenape tribe. We acknowledge that these people of the Stony Country lived here and decry the unjust taking of their Lenape-hoking. To acknowledge well and move beyond just this ceremony reciprocity, we commit to softening and expanding and evolving ourselves in order to better understand our place on this land. We commit to making meaningful connections between the original people and their ancestral land in order to counteract the myth-spinning systems in which we exist today, including white supremacy, Christian supremacy, and settler colonialism. And we commit to counteracting all harm to original peoples that perpetuates a narrative of erasure. And if you are, with your eyes still closed, you can gently open them. And Henco is going to further settle us in this space with some music. Wow, that was just beautiful. Today's invocation is called Beatitudes for the attitudes in all of us. Thank you, Micah, for this one. Blessed are the perfectionists, for they recognize the potential present in mistakes. Blessed are the connectors, for they feel the pain that can build bridges. Blessed are the doers, for they understand the impact of action. Blessed are the dreamers, for they pour more imagination into the everyday. Blessed are the investigators, for they treat life like a mystery worth solving. Blessed are the skeptics, for they prepare for the worst. Blessed are the enthusiasts, for they prepare for the best. And blessed are the protectors, for they keep us tuned in to our tendency to harm. Blessed are the hesitators, for they listen for what's really going on. Blessed are you in everything that you are, for you will always be attitudes to which you don't care to admit, annoyed or annoying. The colors burst forward anyway, so go ahead, sanctify the kaleidoscope, and enjoy the view. Amen. And this next song is a new rendition by Henco and Micah. Change is Coming, led by the Judson Choir.
If you want to stand, if you're able, and then I'll give you a little bit of a roadmap for Change is Coming. So the first verse, the choir will sing one time through, so you just hear it first, and then you all will join in on verse 1. Then allow the choir to sing verse 2 by themselves, and then everyone 3, 4, and 5. So choir 1, everyone 1, choir 2, everyone 3, 4, 5. Best of luck.
Good morning, Johnson. Our ancient testimony reading is from the book of Revelation, chapter 12, from verse 1 to 6. And I'll read. A great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant and cried out in pain as she was about to give birth. Then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns on its heads. Its tail swept a trail of the stars out of the sky and plunged them to the earth. The dragon stood in front of the woman who was about to give birth, so that it might devour her child in the moment he was born. She gave birth to a son, a male child, who will rule all the nations with an iron scepter, and her child was snatched up to God and to his throne. The woman fled into the wilderness to a place prepared for her by God, where she might be taken care of for 1,260 days. Amen.
Hi, everybody. The modern testimony is the lyrics from a song called She by Alice Phoebe Blue. She cut a hole in the fence and she ran. She left her troublesome prison behind. She didn't want to fuel the fire. She didn't want to lose her desire. She looked out to the horizon. She didn't have much to see. Greed had taken the trees away. Greed had taken the bees away. She don't know where she's gonna go now. She looked up to what should have been stars. She said, I wanna go to Mars, and this planet, it ain't ours. She said, I wanna go to Mars, and this planet, it ain't ours. She said, I wanna go to Mars, and this planet, it ain't ours. Ours.
So many things I can't control, so much hurt that happens every day, so many heartaches that pierce the soul, so much pain that won't ever go away. How can we make it better? How can we make it through? What can we do when there's nothing we can do? We can be kind, we can take care of each other, we can remember that deep down inside we all need the same thing. And maybe we'll find, if we are there for each other, that together we'll weather whatever tomorrow may bring. Nobody really wants to fight. Nobody really wants to go to war. If everyone wants to make things right, then what are we always fighting for? Does Does nobody want to see it? Does nobody understand? The power to heal is right here in our hand. We can be kind. We can take care of each other. We can remember that deep down inside we all need the same thing. And maybe we'll find, if we are there for each other, that together we'll weather whatever tomorrow may bring. And it's not enough to talk about it, not enough to sing a song. We must walk the walk about it, you and I, do or die. We've got to learn to get along. We can be kind. We can take care of each other. We can remember that deep down inside we all need the same thing. And maybe we'll find, if we are there for each other, that together we'll weather whatever tomorrow may bring. And maybe we'll find true peace of mind if we always remember we can be kind.
Thank you so much, Peggy and Henco. And so on Monday, Henco and Micah meet to discuss the programming for worship. And knowing that I was going to preach this week in the worship meeting when we were planning, they casually are like, well, we could just make up 2 new songs and throw them in the lineup. We could just do that. So like the songs that you're hearing in this service, like they were just created. It's complete brilliance. Yeah, right? Complete brilliance. And the music that we get to experience here at Judson, it blows my mind. 2 years ago, when I started as a community minister here, I didn't realize that you could have original music with those lyrics in church, or light show movement visual pieces like Naval Cassidy, or dance as a testimony in a church service. And I learned that here. And so what I'm going to share with you today is what has been my thesis for the past 3 years at Union, but it's really in response to being a community minister here with you at Judson, surrounded by artists. So, creative biblical exegesis. We got a slideshow, because this is going to be visual. So last Friday, just a week ago, I was sitting on the stage at the Manhattan School of Music in my red union robe, and it was graduation. I graduated, yes! With Elliot, who also graduated and is a former CM, yes. And so they had already passed out all the diplomas, and we're sitting up there, and I was wearing stilettos and a very tight dress, and I was kind of like today, just kind of shaky and nervous and excited. And they started calling names for awards, and I was very happy for my friends who were winning awards. And I thought, for me, long shot, I struggle bust my way through seminary. and working full time and being with all of you. But I heard them say Judson. And I was like, And then I heard my name. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I had won the award, the Robert E. Seaver Award for Worship and the Arts. Thanks to you. I won that award for doing biblical exegesis, for developing this modality, and I realized that I was going to come here today and preach to all of you about the Bible and exegesis, but 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, I came up here and I said that I don't find myself in the Bible and that it's really difficult for me to enter and find passages. So I sat with that. And then I realized this. I don't naturally go into the Bible alone when I'm feeling stressed or to find comfort. It's not my go-to. But I love going into the Bible with others. I love holding your hand and entering it together through play. There are so many stories in the Bible that are like soap operas, that are technicolored and have dragons and goddesses bathed in the sun, that they're so visual. And as an artist, I like creating biblical text through imagery. So today, I'm sharing this process called creative biblical exegesis. And exegesis just meaning to critically interpret. And I'm sharing this method today with the hope that if you are like me and the Bible is something that you are frankly disinterested in or scared of, or it's been used to harm you and you are not super happy to open it, that this might be a modality to enter it with others and with play and expand it and stretch it to fit you and all of your sparkly life experiences. So, this project started in my Hebrew Bible class, and I had read this article in this class about a woman who gave the story of Hagar to all the women in her PTA group and had the women decide which character they related to best. Was it either Hagar or Sarai? And based on their race and gender, or their race and sexuality and class, the author made assumptions about how each one of those women was going to respond. And what she realized in their reflections is she was completely wrong. And so that made me think, what if I was to do that same process, but have the final piece be a visual representation of how people saw themselves in that story? So Dr. Carr allowed us to do a final creative project, and that's exactly what I did. These are the results of giving 13 Union students the text of Hagar from Genesis 16, 21, and 22. Now, if you haven't heard the story of Sarah and Hagar, here is a quick, down and dirty soap opera version telling of it. Sarah and Abraham being the father of the Abrahamic traditions, are on this journey. And Abraham has to birth this great nation, or Sarah, but Sarah can't have kids. And so along their journey, they find this slave woman who becomes the slave of Sarah, and Sarah, after unsuccessfully, she's not able to have kids, says, Abraham, have kids with Hagar. Very problematic, very troubling. And Hagar runs away and is like, And an angel comes and tells her to go back. She goes back. And she has a son. And then Sarah has a son. And after Sarah has a son, she's like, bye, Hagar, no. And Hagar must leave and go into the wilderness, where she watches practically her son die of starvation and thirst, when another angel comes and tells her exactly what the angel told Abraham. You will birth a great nation. And from there, Hagar's story continues in Islamic hadith, and she becomes a matriarch of Islam. Now, in the Bible, there's this technique, a literary technique called a chiasm, where a story builds up, telling it to the very point what you're supposed to look at, and then it retells it down. Now, we use the term Abraham to describe Abrahamic traditions and Abraham's story, but the chiasm of Abraham's story in Genesis is Hagar. The Bible is literally telling us, look at Hagar. And so we did. Each of those people were given these steps to create their visual. So if you want to screenshot this or take a picture, I also have a PDF if you want to use this in your group. Step 1, as a facilitator, I identified a passage that wasn't too long or wasn't too... We got this? That had multiple characters. Step 2, gave that to a group of people. The quick soap opera version is how I used to tell different people this story and get them into the project, because many of those people had never heard the story before. Step 3, after giving it to your participants, you ask them to read it and then go alone and meditate on it, sit with it, and focus on these prompts. Who are you in the story? Why are you that person in the story? How does this passage feel in your body? What smells, colors, or songs does it remind you of? What from your past does it remind you of? And if this story continued, how do you imagine it continuing? Then after they've taken time to reflect, we have an interview where we sit down. And what I realized in that portion is that in this container of creative play, people drop down into a more vulnerable state to share intimate stories. Then from their reflection, we did a photo shoot, but again, this modality could be used with painting or drawing, or you can make a song out of it. And the conclusion is you pair the visual representations of people in the text with the biblical text to show how expansive and radiant and different this one story is to so many people. Now, here are some lessons I learned from this. Lesson 1, as I mentioned before, it helps totally smash the assumptions that you have, how other people are reading a specific text. And lesson 2, we'll go to Josh, is that by acting out a story, you can dive deeper into parts of you that you've been not wanting to share. Now, when I sat down and asked Josh who he was in the story, he immediately said, the angel. I'm the angel that told Hagar to go back. And I was like, wow, I was not expecting that. I even had to think about, like, where was that angel in the story? And he said that when he was an undergrad in Tennessee, before he had come out, he was the guide to all of the freshmen who would come and confide in him, and he'd show them around campus. And many of the queer students who trusted him, he's like the most warm and gentle soul, confided in him that they were also queer. And Josh told them to forget about those thoughts and go back to the church and deny that part of themselves. He said, I was the angel that told Hagar to go back to what was killing her. And I sat there with Josh, and he started to cry, and he said, when I was that person, I was halfway between this heavenly hell space and students. And when I picture myself recreating this, there's this staircase that I found at Union when I was exploring one night. We have to go up in the tower, and then we have to get onto... And I was like, oh, this sounds dangerous. But another lesson I learned from creative exegesis is that it gets you in your body. And trauma is stored in our body. And our stories are stored in our body. And so as we tried to find the staircase to do his image, we moved that out of our body, and we acted it out and reimagined it, confronted it, and let it go. For Gala, the embodiment was us literally hiking and laying our bodies on the earth, digging our hands into the ground, embodying the pain of a mother watching her son die, the pain of a mother losing a child, or just the pain of being a mother. For Marissa, that was us walking to Wall Street and standing between the patriarchal structures of Wall Street and Trinity Church and yelling at them both for being restrictive to our bodies and to our theologies, to physically yelling. And to Anna, that was getting inside my bathtub, filled with water and milk, to represent the salvific powers of water for Hagar and her son, and how her story continues on in the Islamic tradition, where she is taken in by a community that gathers around the water. Now, Hagar's story has many powerful motifs, and they're very inspirational. So when I started my queer theology class the next year, I wondered, okay, so could this modality be used with harmful texts that have been used to exclude? So, one of the most profound in that area, as Phyllis Tribble calls a text of terror, is Genesis 19. Some call it Sodom and Gomorrah. I choose to call it the angels and Lot. Now, could this same exegesis process have an inspiring reach? So we tried. Another queer theologian, Darren Guest, provides a 4R framework for entering into these harmful texts and reclaiming them. The 4 R's are resistance, rupture, reclamation, re-engagement. For this text, we entered it with the hetero suspicion that the text had done harm and resisted those readings on our bodies. We ruptured them by reimagining the angels as queer and reclaimed them by inserting queer stories and queer bodies literally into the text, and then acted that all out and shared it on social media in re-engagement. When I read this story of Genesis 19, 1 through 23, there is one thing that's missing, and it's very important. The text starts with angels who walk into a town. And when they walk into a town, Lot immediately sees them and goes, "They're angels. Behold, the angels." How does Lot know that they're angels? The Bible has very little graphic images or visuals of what angels might look like. A couple of the few that are there are Isaiah 6:2, where angels are described as having 6 wings covering their face and feet. In Ezekiel 1, they had human likeliness, but each angel had 4 faces, and each of them had 4 wings, and their legs were straight, and the soles of their feet were like the sole of a calf. Okay. But Lot sees them and recognizes them as angels. So an identifying feature of queer theology is this idea of identity without essence, that queer theology is theology beyond identity, that queer as a term and God share this feature of being non-binary and unrestricted by boxed identities. God is intimately knowable to us, but also totally unknowable. Now, I equally find that this lack of reference in the Bible to what angels look like, it lends themselves to kind of fall into this queer category of having an identity of angel without the essence. Angels are entities beyond identities. They are so queer. So I gave this text to 4 friends, and I asked them to consider themselves the right side, the angels, as the angels in the story. We all met at a photo studio, and we talked about the text, and we talked about the Bible, and the participant who was most familiar with the story happened to be Muslim. And they explained how in Islam, this text is also used to condemn homosexuality and justify its immorality. Now, that participant had never worn a dress or makeup. But when asked how they would represent themselves as an angel, out of all of the wardrobe, they picked a dress, and then they asked the makeup artist to do them in a full face of glam. And they said that's how they would be an angel on earth. So lesson 4, creative exegesis, allows for you to live into your darker memories, but also your sparkly future self. So the images on the right are from that, and then I took this modality to Berlin, and I did it with a group of people that I was living there, and those images are on the left. In December, I used this same modality on the text of Isaiah 49, 14 through 26. The passage of the Hebrew Bible that our professor disclosed is the only direct reference to the female mother god. Here are the results. One of the participants, Josh, the green up there, in his interview, he realized that reading this text about a mother losing children, that he had been living a life to compensate for his mom losing a child right before she had him. That his existence was filling that hole. We created this project, we turned it into a movie, which I also shared here. Over the break, I got a text from him, and he said, "Hey, could I share that movie with my family?" I said, "Sure." And he said, "I've never shared any of these feelings with them." So we shared the movie. So lesson 5 I learned. Creative exegesis gives us visuals where sometimes there are not enough words for the whole story. And finally, our ancient text for the day, Revelation 12, 1 through 6. The image of the goddess on the moon with a tiara, robed in the sun. Now, I gave this text to one of my only friends that has a baby, thinking, oh, this will be great. She's a mom. She'll have a great perspective on this. We sat down to our interview in a cafe, and she told me, you know what? I've never opened the Bible before, and I cannot believe that this is in the Bible. And I was like, it really is. And she is an actress, and she's also a screenwriter, and she's like, this is like a movie. This is like some play. She's like, this is really the Bible. And I was like, yeah, it's really the Bible. Now, I went in thinking, okay, Karina is a mom. She's going to give me the mother perspective. Karina, I overlooked, is Greek. Her whole family goes back generations and generations and generations from the island of Crete. So she read this text, and she looked at me, and she said, you know where this really comes from? I was like, what? She's like, this is Rhea, the daughter of Gaia, the mother of Zeus. She fled her abusive husband and went to the island of Crete, and she had to give birth in silence. And as she was birthing in pain, she dug her fingernails into the earth, and that's what formed the mountains on our island. Oh, wow. I would later read in biblical commentary that John, who wrote Revelation, lived on the Greek Isle of Patmos, and indeed was heavily influenced by Greek mythology. Again, smashing my assumptions of what people would tell me. For Karina, the last line of that text, that this woman went into hiding for 1,260 days, was her postpartum depression. And in her postpartum depression, and in her feeling like she was a milk machine, she said, you know what? I like this project because I just want to be seen. I want to be seen as sexy, and I want to be seen as beautiful, and I want to be seen as the goddess. Creative exegesis sees you. Our last slide, for me, I struggled with this text. I had to exegete it for a class. I struggled with it because for me, a goddess who's snatched from the sky and then has to give birth and is chased by a dragon and ends up in the wilderness by herself, it's troublesome. And I wanted to find some sort of empowering way to see her, and I read feminist scholars like Dr. Bridget Call, who said, okay, the empowering reading is the fact that the one that saves her is Gaia, is a female deity, so it's a female deity saving a female deity, but that still didn't hit for me. But then I heard a song. I made this image with Bodgana, and we were trying to pair it with music. And in your modern testimony, that song, She, by Alice Phoebe Liu, the first line, she cut a hole in the fence and she ran. Fleeing a situation that is oppressive, that is restrictive, that is not who you are, is courageous. In its first century context, under Roman patriarchal rule, fleeing was resistance. She fled. She was courageous. So in conclusion, if the Bible is scary and distant and dusty, enter it with others. Play. Hold hands as you walk through memories and texts. Go along with friends. Micah told me that this is a process of exegeting texts, but it's also a process of exegeting people. So if it's too scary to go into it by yourself, go into it with others. And if you do want that PDF of how you can do this in your communities, that's my email. Please email me or send me a message, because my hope is that other people in their Bible groups or friend groups or after school groups will have fun expanding the Bible creatively. Thank you. I have to do a quick But I will say this, that when you give to Judson, you are giving to the arts, you're giving to creative programming, you're giving to this, but you're also giving to so many of the services that happen here for artists, for thinkers, for actors, for musicians. So if you're online, you can look in the little chat box for ways to give online or on Venmo, and for those here, there's gonna be baskets that are being passed around. You can give that way, whatever is most comfortable to you.
I wrote this song after last week's service, but now it feels like it was written for this week's service. I'm feeling very emotionally attached to what you just gave us, so thank you. We'll see if I can get through this with my pollen-filled throat. Oh, I would read you like a sacred text is tattooed on your skin, like I could even understand. There's nowhere that you end and I begin, and can we make it true? Return to me. Return to you. And can we take it when we go? Maybe it's scary, but when we go, we'll be a sanctuary. We are woven into music here, my friends. We're broken into rhyme. Somehow we swirl around each other, touching nerves and keeping time. In wind I gave my word. We may struggle to be heard, but I think we're getting somewhere with our new starts, twice mended parts, aiming at that place we spark. And can we make it true? Return to me. Return to you. Become a sanctuary. And can we take it when we go? Maybe it's scary, but then we'll know we are a sanctuary. And when we go, we'll be a sanctuary.
I feel like I'm fresh out of words. Like it's like one of those moments that's just so beautiful, and I look out and I see like so many artists that like I really look up to, and I feel so grateful to be here and to be a part of you. And I love you, Judson. So this is it, right? This is where just this little hour together on a Sunday morning ends, but this is really the spark that sets the week on fire for us. And so I hope that everything you heard and saw and felt, tasted, just fills you up for the week to come. And that you go out from here remembering that you are artists, whether you paint or draw or color or sing, and that you're part of this Judson family. So with that, another new song for more inspiration by Henco and Micah. Take us away.
Please stand if you're able, and I'll give you the roadmap for this one. We'll have the choir again sing the first verse, then you all will join on the first verse, then the choir will sing the second verse, and you all will join on the second verse, and then everyone together for the third verse. And if you just want to continue singing along, do that too.
is that time in the service where we want to hear from you for celebrations and concerns. And so if you have a celebration or concern, you can come up to one of these sides. And it's also a time where I think we're going to welcome the Zoom diaspora onto the wall to say hi to their beautiful faces. Oh, there they are. Hi, Zoom. Welcome.